Hello and welcome to Travel Tuesday, part of the Bros Media Network at the intersection of culture and history. I'm your host, Brian Applegarth, creator of the Cannabis Trail and CEO of Applegarth Strategies. We're an agency specialized in cannabis travel and the cannabis travel audience, providing consulting and marketing services for lounges, events, and cannabis brands. Whether you're a seasoned cannabis professional or just starting out, you're sure to find something of value here on Travel Tuesday with the Beard Bros Media Network. So let's get started. For this Travel Tuesday podcast episode, I'm interviewing a true leader of the modern day cannabis hospitality experience, Edgar Ramon. Edgar is the co-founder and CEO of Fields Cannary. Edgar is a seasoned financial professional with over 25 years in finance and emerging markets, and he is the co-founder and CEO of Fields Cannary, a company dedicated to promoting a normalized cannabis industry. And just a brief description, Fields Cannary is to the cannabis industry what breweries and wineries are to theirs. It delivers a unique collective cannabis experience that combines cultivation, processing, and dispensing with consumption, dining, and entertainment, all in one location. It's a first of its kind venture. Edgar, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me.
Of course, yeah. Well, what inspired you to co-found Fields Cannary? What was the start of your journey, the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I left the finance world back in late 2018, early 2019, I wanted to continue to look for an exciting opportunity in new emerging markets. Being a user of cannabis for my entire adult life, I always kept coming back to the cannabis industry. At the time, I was residing in Illinois, in Chicago, and of course, the cannabis industry back then was just starting to really kind of gain some traction because adult use legalization took place in January of 2020. So I looked at the industry there, but let's just say that there was a lot of red tape to get through to try to get into the license field over there. However, my wife has a very strong hospitality background, so we started looking at what other ways can we get into this booming business, maybe from an ancillary side of things, and we decided to start a cannabis hospitality company where we focused on cannabis-infused dinner parties, anything from private parties at someone's home to large ticket sale type events. Well, skip forward a little bit, right? We get hit with COVID. So the event space just completely shuts down. But I was fortunate enough to meet my current business partner, who is born and raised in the Muskegon, Michigan area. And he said, hey, listen, why don't you take a look at the Michigan market? So I did, traveled to Michigan and took a look around and got familiar with not only Michigan itself, but the industry. But what I noticed was that, again, the train had taken off, had left the depot a long time ago. So we started saying to ourselves, well, we've got to do something different, right? How do we take our backgrounds? He's a third generation grower. He's a plant advocate. He's a geneticist. That's his background. Again, I mentioned my background in finance, my wife's background in hospitality. So we started saying, well, how do we combine these things? Well, one day we're just at we're at a winery here in Michigan, which are very, very popular. Wineries, breweries, distilleries throughout the state of Michigan are extremely popular. But my business partner doesn't really drink. And that's when the light bulb went off. We said, well, why isn't the equivalent of a winery or a brewery or a distillery, but for the herb lover, for the cannabis consumer? That just does not exist. So that's when we said to ourselves, well, we did the research on a property we want to buy. It's substantial. It's 4 acres. It gives us the opportunity to execute a similar model as a dispensary or a winery. And then we just started doing a little bit more market research within the community. And we realized that we were onto something when people started saying, oh, my gosh, right, that's brilliant. I can't wait to come. You're right. Our industry, our consumers deserve this. It was just a lot of research, a lot of going back and seeing what is out there. And when you learn more about the industry, you start realizing that there wasn't really a place for consumers to enjoy the cannabis product like its main competitor, alcohol. We just thought to ourselves, that's got to change. There has to be a change in that. So that's how we came to the Cannary model. So yeah, it was an exciting venture to get through all of that. But again, once the light bulb went off, we really knew we were onto something.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of building blocks to your model. Can you walk us through this kind of all-in-one experience? And I'm specifically, it's interesting because obviously alcohol and the brewery industry and wineries, they all really circulate around beverages, period. But obviously cannabis can really express itself through a lot of different consumer products, and it's arguably a wider toolkit, which sometimes refining down the process and pulling out the differentiators while doubling down on what's already proven with other industries feels like it's probably part of the exercise. So can you walk us through the all-in-one experience and how you decided to kind of move forward with the specific experience centers and building blocks that Fields Cannary represents?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really consider ourselves to almost be more of a hospitality company than we are a cannabis company. Of course, we've got the cannabis component, which naturally makes us a cannabis company, but we consider ourselves a hospitality company, a destination spot. But like breweries and like wineries and like distilleries, we knew we had to have production. Right? So we'll be growing the plant. We knew we had to have the processing and the packaging of the plant. We knew we needed to have the retail sales component of it. And then, of course, we wanted to go beyond what traditional vertically integration means, which is typically known as seed to sale. We wanted to be seed to enjoyment. So we wanted to build out the event space. We wanted the consumption lounge. And then we wanted our food and beverage services in our full service restaurant and bar. Unlike many other companies out there, we may be one in a handful, if that not only controls 5 cannabis licenses, but also has a liquor license, which is really, again, unprecedented in here. But that allows us to open our doors to just about anyone, at least anyone that's 21 and older. So we can then start catering to not just the cannabis consumer, but the curious consumer, people that are out there that are hearing more and more about cannabis legalization and cannabis use and its many benefits, still have a reason to come to our location, even if they're not heavy consumers or, again, are just curious on it. So the infrastructure, as you can imagine, it's quite complex, right? With all of these different licenses and entities. We've got 7 different entities that all kind of roll up to a parent company. But we wanted to structure it so that we were all encompassing, right? That you can come here and you can witness the production of it. You can have discussions with the growers in terms of why did they select these particular genetics? What's the strain all about? And what are the effects, right? Things of that nature, whether you're doing that in our retail location or you're doing it in our lounge or you're doing it in our restaurant. We wanted the people to be able to, again, witness and experience that farm to table model of where we produce it, where we grow it, where you can buy it, and where you can actually enjoy it.
Excellent. When you were developing your model, were there 2 or 3, you mentioned wineries and breweries, but were there any specific kind of prior ventures that really were kind of a beacon as you were looking and crafting your model?
Yeah, I mean, it's fortunate that I was able to travel a lot, both for business and for pleasure. So my wife and I and friends would always be exploring new destinations around the entire world, and we were using those even as we were still coming up with the full business model to kind of help us develop what we actually ultimately want Fields to become. What we knew was that we're in western part of Michigan. It's a beautiful destination area already. It caters to a lot of different folks, from arts to sports to adventures, things of that nature. So we wanted to kind of make sure that everybody still got a little bit of Michigan every time they came and visited us. Not just, again, from the cannabis perspective, but what the overall entire state has to offer, right? We have multiple seasons here. We plan our food menu to rotate with the seasons. We have a lot of wineries and breweries, as I mentioned earlier here. We plan on working with those wineries and breweries, not only to carry their products, but to share ideas and share customers and collaborate on certain, whether they be tours or something else. So we really just started, going out and using our previous experience of travel, and then getting to know the community better and starting to learn about what they're used to seeing here in the area or what they would like to see in the area. And decided, okay, these are the things we need to add. We can't be everything, right? But we certainly wanted to make sure that we can cater to a lot of different type of customers. And that's how we designed it. That's the way that the facility will be designed and operate.
Excellent. Yeah, and you really shine a spotlight on being part of a community and a destination brand, which again, it just to look at a hospitality company with several different entities holding licenses in the cannabis industry as well as with an alcohol license, I think really kind of that's the nuts and bolts of really kind of the differentiation and how special Fields is. So let's walk through each of the experience centers real quick and do a little bit deeper dive. The dispensary, can you paint the picture of how that is going to be created and what kind of experience a visitor will have when they go into the dispensary cannabis retail shop specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So to be clear, right, for anyone that's watching this, is we're currently under construction, so we're not open yet. But what we're doing right now is we're remodeling an 11,000 square foot building, which will house our dispensary, our restaurant, our indoor consumption space, of course, all of the back of house items in terms of offices and kitchen and things of that nature. We'll have a gift shop within the entryway of it as well. Kind of giving people somewhat of a speakeasy vibe when they first come in. The gift shop will actually operate as a flower store, not a cannabis flower store, a traditional flower store. And then there's the adjacent outdoor space, which is also a consumption lounge with an outdoor kitchen. There'll be a limited menu out there, and then a small amphitheater on the property for music venues to weddings and many other types of events there. And then phase two will be the production facility of a state-of-the-art, environmentally friendly greenhouse where we'll grow the plant and also, again, process the plant into products such as edibles and vapes and things of that nature. So the experience with our dispensary, if you're just kind of walking in, the first experience is that you're coming in through our flower store. And, I give credit to Trader Joe's on that one. When you first go to a Trader Joe's grocery store, you usually get greeted by beautiful flowers, right? The scent of the flowers and everything else just kind of uplifts your mood in general. And then the overall experience and your shopping experience is definitely elevated after that. So that's kind of our goal there as well. Of course, it'll act as other measures. That'll be their security check-in point, find out if you have a reservation for the restaurant or you're just going to the store or you're coming into the lounge. But then our retail location, because we consider ourselves to be a destination spot, our model isn't your typical dispensary model that's usually 10 to 15 minutes long and you get your product and you leave. We want our retail, of course, to have very knowledgeable and friendly staff, a wide selection of different products. But in the end of the day, though, our goal really is to keep you on property as long as possible, right? To come and enjoy the value-added services in our restaurant, in our lounge, in our outdoor space. So you can come to our retail location and you can leave, but you can come to our retail location and then enjoy those products while you're here. And even if you're just within our restaurant or within our lounge and you need additional products from our dispensary, we can then deliver it right to your table or wherever you're located within our property. So above that, one of the things that I think will be a main focal point for us is we came up with the name of Fields because of our love for plants in general, not just the cannabis plant, but our love for plants, the planet, and a lot of things we're doing are going to be environmentally friendly. So the main focal point of our entire property will be beautiful plant life everywhere, as if you're in a beautiful field of beautiful flowers and vegetation. So our restaurant will be surrounded by that. The restaurant will operate as a traditional restaurant wherein we won't allow combustible consumption there. So there'll be no smoking within our restaurant. let's face it, even if you're the heaviest consumer, right, it's probably not the most comfortable thing to be surrounded by a bunch of smoke as you're enjoying a wonderful dinner. But we will allow for customers to enjoy packaged cannabis products. So we can focus on food packaged products, not necessarily gummy bears or your traditional edibles you see out there. But if somebody wanted to add an additional infused avocado sauce or oil or honey or sriracha to their existing meal, they can purchase that, and they can be delivered to their table where they can then open it and add it to their food dish directly. But that's, the restaurant again experience for us wanted to be a traditional restaurant experience, not necessarily a cannabis filled experience. The smoking consumption side will happen within our consumption lounge. That is an area where, again, it'd be an area for everybody to gather. Of course, we'll have TVs, but we'll also have a cannabis mocktail bar within the cannabis lounge. There'll be a large outdoor space where people go out and enjoy different activities like outdoor pool tables and ping pong, or just sit and gather around the couches and a fireplace and enjoy both your cannabis products, your non-cannabis products, and then the community that you're surrounded by. So that's the experience. We wanted to build out the amphitheater to also host small, private type of intimate musical gatherings. But we've also been approached over the years in inquiring around cannabis weddings, which are becoming much more popular these days. And further, people are constantly looking, especially in the industry, are looking at where they can host their holiday parties, their corporate parties, things of that nature that are cannabis friendly, but can also fit a large group of people. So the outdoor space, the entire 4 acres, will be utilized so that we can facilitate many people's different needs, whether again it be for enjoyment, celebrations, or advocacy. We got people that are coming out for networking events, and people coming out to work with social equity group and expungement clinics and things of that nature. We really want to be a location where we can facilitate those type of operators that have a place that's not only friendly, right, but legal and very accommodating.
Do you look at vaping and smoking through the same lens when you're looking at inhalation spaces?
I think I do. I think smoke certainly carries a much it's a much thicker product that you're dealing with. But we are working with HVAC companies and air purification companies that are really state of the art. I mean, similar, if not ideal, to what you see in like the Las Vegas casinos and things of that nature. So we want to make sure that everyone is comfortable, right? This is not a typical basement that you would go to and hang out back in the days with your friends and buddies and smoke, right? We want this again to be comfortable for everybody, whether you are smoking or vaping or not. So we're putting a lot of emphasis on that.
What about, how are you approaching, I guess when I envision your menus and the experience from A to Z, how are you approaching the altering effects, the THC options versus non-medicated, non-activated THC options? If I'm looking at a menu, what percentage of that how's it exemplifying the spectrum of THC altering effects versus products that have no effect but allow people to participate in the experience?
Yeah, I mean, you have to cater to your specific market, right? We would love to be able to, and we hope that we can cater to many different markets, right? But within, Michigan in itself is just behind California in terms of total sales, and they'll probably reach 3.5 billion here. So we know we have a large number of existing consumers within this market here that are looking for that let's call it heavy THC use to low THC use. So we will have a menu that can cater to all of those. The one benefit of also having our own processing license is that we can get very specific for our kind of weekly, monthly, quarterly cannabis users, wherein that if you're only in the wholesale market, it might become very difficult for you to carry on either in very specific cannabinoids or very specific milligram or dosages, if those aren't what pay your bills. For us, though, as a restaurant and a lounge and a place where, again, we're catering to our customer specific needs, we can focus then on saying, okay, well, this week we sold a lot of 1 milligram single serving doses of dabs, for instance, right? Dab flights. So then we can take that information and start determining whether or not this will become popular, whether it's going to be a popular item on the menu or be a popular item for a specific event. And then we can process and create those ourselves, right? We also have the ability to create and process single serving items such as cakes or pies or drinks, things of that nature. Hopefully one day, where I think the market is moving, is going to be in specific kind of cannabinoids for people. And maybe, there's one day that I see we'll have the ability to provide people with the exact type of dosage or product that they're looking for. So I'll give you an example, right? That might be a drink that maybe isn't necessarily seltzer based, it's fresh squeezed juice based, but does include 2 milligrams of THC, 4 milligrams of CBD, right? Something to their specific needs, and create the products catered to exactly what that customer is looking for.
Very cool. Very interesting. God, it's exciting to imagine. So as far as strategic partnerships, obviously you've noted that Michigan has a brand, it's a state, it's right on the heels of California. There's some great innovation happening out there. You're leading the pack here in hospitality and really doing something globally disruptive and interesting. What are some key strategic partnerships once you open your doors that you see as vital to success?
Well, the obvious ones are in the cannabis industry. There are certainly a lot of manufacturers here, a lot of operators over here. So we want to, our retail location isn't your, let's just call it Walmart shopping experience where there's just an abundance of different selection of items to choose from. We want to cater towards more kind of specific, whether they be sun-grown cannabis products or but there is a lot of operators here who are looking forward to carrying their products in. But I think even a better way, focusing again on our hospitality component, is strategic partnerships with the hotel operators within Muskegon and beyond. Because let me back up. Muskegon in itself is becoming and has become a destination spot within Western Michigan. A lot of people travel here for a lot of large events. The Muskegon Chamber of Commerce says that it is roughly 1.5 million tourists visit Muskegon every single summer. Throughout the year, it slows down, of course, in your winter months. But there are large events over here. There's a beer festival that brings in 100 different beer vendors or breweries to the beach. There's Bike Time, which is a large motorcycle event. It's one of the largest Irish fests that take place here, on and on and on. So our goal is to work with what people are already doing within the Western Michigan space in terms of events, and make sure that the people that are, whether you're local to Muskegon or you're traveling from out of state, that you're aware of these additional destination spots. And as Muskegon continues to grow in their hospitality, we're going to see more events, we're going to see more hotels, we're going to see more campgrounds and things of that nature. So we want to make sure that we have strategic partnerships with all of them so that when people come visit here, whether you're coming for the hiking trails or you're coming for the beach or you're coming for an event, right, you're surrounded by multiple things to enjoy your time here. And ours is just one additional hospitality space in a growing area of a hospitality industry here. We're 7 miles roughly from Lake Michigan. We're 4 miles from Muskegon Lake, which is a very large boating lake. So there's so many things to offer here. Strategic partnerships with adventure companies, people that do hiking and do whitewater rafting and things of that nature. So those are like the strategic partnerships that we're really looking forward to. Aside from that, the last one is, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of wineries, a lot of breweries, but a lot of local farmers too, right? So catering our menu around local farms for both protein and produce. and revolving that menu around the seasons, I think gives us a great opportunity to strategically partnership with a lot of local businesses so that people really get the feel of what Michigan and Muskegon specifically has to offer.
Absolutely. That seasonality strategy is such a strong theme, right? Through hospitality, tourism, and travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about your plans to expand? Do you see the Fields model expanding to different markets?
100%. Yeah, we always knew that, right? We want to, of course, make the flagship location here in Muskegon, get proof of concept, get everything that we learned that over the years from concept to opening. Try to avoid some of the mistakes or make the hurdles a little smoother when we go to open our second location. But I think the cannery model would do well in any legal state. If you just go back a little over a decade ago, there was something like, let's just call it roughly 2,000 breweries in the United States. Seems extremely low, especially again, as you're traveling through Michigan, you might see 2,000. But today, right, that number is 15 plus thousand. Wineries was the same scenario. There were somewhere in the less than 2,000 of those a little over a decade ago. And you've got 12, 13, 14,000 wineries within the United States. So there's no reason why the cannery model couldn't continue to expand. I'm not saying that every location is going to be 4 acres and every location is going to have all the complexities that maybe our first location has, but we do think that there is certainly a need for it, but more importantly, it's what the consumer deserves. Right. The reason why these breweries and wineries have become so popular and have grown in the fashion that they have, it's because of the consumers. The consumers are supporting it. The consumers are demanding them. So the cannabis consumer deserves the same privileges, freedoms that alcohol consumers have. And that's what our goal is.
Absolutely. And if you look at the evolution of the products and services, the experience economy is really kind of stands on its own, as far as you mentioned time before, and monetizing people's experience and the time spent and maximizing that. And it's a different art form. And it's really, you're one of the first, you and Aaron and a few of these pioneers in the United States are doing some really groundbreaking things for the cannabis experience economy, which is now upon us with lounges, events, and things like Fields or Sierra Social Club.
And I hope that the we have a very close relationship with a lot of the operators, not just in Michigan, but coming from Illinois, a lot of the Illinois operators, and then just through attending different networking events. And I think they all do see the need for what we're doing, what Aaron's doing, with what people are doing out in Denver and the hotel space, and now California changing the rules. And that's going to be the next real boon in sales for cannabis in general, right? So what we're doing, I think, helps every operator within that space. Because if you, again, we just go reference it back to the alcohol market, what would alcohol sales be if you could only buy it and consume it at your private residence or private location, right? If you couldn't go to a bar and order a drink, or go to a concert or drink, a sports venue, or whatever the case may be, alcohol sales would be a fraction of what they are today. So I see cannabis kind of moving that same direction. Now that there'll be more places where you can go out and freely consume the product, right? That's going to help general sales. And that's the direction I see the industry moving.
Yeah. In the spirit of the experience economy, obviously hospitality level service or travel worthy points of interest or destinations are some of the phrases that go hand in hand with this, which ties back into, to your point, local products, celebrating local place, local craft, seasonality. How do you tie all that into training? How do you think your training for your staff, specifically frontline staff, is going to be different than the typical retailer today?
Yeah, well, since we have so many different moving pieces right here within the restaurant, the lounge, the retail, the event space, etc., there'll be a lot of cross training that takes place across all of our employees. Even though I mentioned my wife has a strong hospitality background, including restaurant management, We've never owned a brick and mortar restaurant. So we're planning on partnering with a company here in Michigan that owns and operates and manages 30 plus restaurants in the state of Michigan. They're certainly going to help with a lot of the areas within the restaurant and food and beverage services that we just don't have experience in. Further, we're going to work with the companies that are experts in these particular areas, whether it be from recognizing over intoxication, right, or just safety, security, or knowledgeable staff about products and dosing and things of that nature. So we'll work with, and there are several companies out there that are doing groundbreaking things to cater to our specific needs for training and those things. But it's also a new industry in general, right? But the cannabis hospitality one is really new. So there'll be a lot of kind of learning by experience that will be taking place. We've never seen anything like this before. We've never seen anything like, Sirius and these other ones that are opening up. So time will help us educate what we'll be doing in the future and what we need to be aware of and things of that nature. So there's a lot out there that can be done ahead of time, but again, we'll be learning as we go.
Yeah, and as a first mover in a new kind of complex, very exciting space, what's been one of your biggest lessons that you've learned through building Fields Cannary?
I mentioned earlier, we came out of COVID after we first kind of started to think about the idea. So we were, of course, faced with, what do we do in terms of a pandemic? So we had those challenges. And then, the industry in itself has, had some turmoil. So a lot of naysayers out there in terms of, well, we're not sure that, that's the right model, or, how can you have people getting high and then leaving your facility, kind of things of that nature. A lot of challenges with convincing people that it is a safe product, right? That the people not only enjoy it for many benefits, right? But are consuming more and more as legalization continues to progress. And even drinking less alcohol, especially with the younger generation that are drinking far less alcohol than the older generation did and does. So it's just a lot of challenges with being first to market comes with its excitement, but it comes with its challenges as well. So we don't really know what's around the corner just yet. We've got a good idea of how we see this operating and working. We know that, again, a lot of people are consuming both cannabis and alcohol together, even though that's typically viewed as a no-no. But we see it happening today. The difference is that when it happens today, it typically happens in a secretive way. You're either at a bar drinking and you step outside to smoke, or maybe you smoked at home first and then you went to the bar, or vice versa, right? Whatever the case may be. We have the ability to kind of monitor what people have purchased within our own location, whether we know that they just purchased an edible or just did a dab or just smoked the pre-roll, and then also had 2 drinks and a shot. So our staff is going to need to be aware of people's consumption habits. And be able to recognize something before something occurs. But I've been to a ton of different events where honestly, few and far between have I noticed there being issues, right? Whether it be issues with overconsumption or it be issues with aggravation or violence or anything like that. Michigan has been home to events that have hosted thousands of people, cannabis events, and for the most part, they're always smooth sailing. I think it shows that, again, the consumers today, right, aren't what people thought they were back in the 60s and 70s. And when the war on drugs painted the bad picture of not only the plant, but of the consumer, we're starting to realize that's just not the case. I mean, I've only been living in Muskegon for a year and a half, but this year and a half that I've been here, I've met a tremendous amount of different people from politicians to small business owners to large business owners, ranging from their 20s to their 80s, and everybody that we've met primarily, I would just say the 99% of the people are excited about what we're doing, are excited that there's a normalized way of consuming cannabis versus having to be secretive about it. And they're really, excited about the industry in general, but the change that the industry is bringing.
Yeah, absolutely. And backfilling, right? To your point, this kind of dip in alcohol sales and wine sales, there's opportunities for cannabis and hemp to offer opportunities for balance. And I have a quick question for you on that front. There's been a lot of chat around cannabis and hemp industries, state to state, at the federal level. Fields is really an attraction, a destination, an experience center in multiple ways. There's opinion that topicals and beverages, low dose beverages and topicals are important to have available in a wide way in the tourism ecosystem, the economy, from hotels to events to other attractions. What's your take on that narrative, and where do you see it fitting? What's good for the plant and the industry to get out into the world and be more accessible and serve the greater travel economy without inhibiting a model like Fields?
Well, you're right that, there's probably three topics out there that are hottest topics in the industry right now, right? One is federal reform, right? The second one is the marijuana versus hemp topic. And thirdly, the cannabis, hospitality, and tourism topics, right? Lounges and tourism, things of that nature. I think cannabis, or at least let's call it marijuana and hemp, should live together. They're the same plant. But with that said, they are a consumable, right? Whether they be consumable, or as you mentioned, a topical, or they're a consumer packaged good. So there should be similar regulations around all of it if you're producing it for sale and for consumption and for use. So whether that be licensing, that be testing. But they both offer tremendous opportunities within our industry. Beverage market, of course, is starting to boom, starting to really take off, and that's normal. People, as you're socializing at a bar or a restaurant or event, you're usually used to having a drink in your hand, right? So not everybody, though, again, wants to consume alcohol they used to consume. So having a beverage market out there that ranges from very low dose or different cannabinoids to high doses and THC only, I think will continue to gain traction as, again, people have a familiarity with having a drink in their hand or asking for a drink. I think the topical market, well, look, I'm a big believer in plant medicine in general. I come from a background of believing in alternative wellness measures. We plan on catering to, we can't be everything, right? But we can work with strategic partners who do cater to specific needs aside from just intoxication. The plant has unknown number of medical benefits that we'll still learn. And I think that'll be the biggest benefactor of federal reform, will be the ability to actually no longer consider the research anecdotal, but to be actual data and facts of what the plant's benefits are. So we do want to make sure that we cater to everybody's specific needs. With that said, there are a lot of other retail locations, right? People can get their products, their specific needs. If we don't happen to cater that to them or carry that particular product, our main focus is to be that destination point, to be that place where we can facilitate the consumer's need to be out socializing while consuming, but to also facilitate, again, celebrations, networking events, anything like that. The 4-acre property gives us the ability to facilitate those, and that's what we're looking forward to, right? We want to make sure we work with these groups out there that are very vocal on very, very important topics, such as the previous war on drugs, such as social equity, but again, just general advocacy for the plant itself. We can provide the facility where you can come with no questions asked, right? host your event here, allow your customers to consume, allow your customers to learn, allow your customers to research products and things of that nature, because quite frankly, there just really isn't a lot of that out there. So we're looking forward to, again, being not only that destination spot, but being that facilitator.
Great. And Edgar, where can the listeners learn more about Fields Cannary?
Yeah, so our website is it's fieldscannary.com. So Cannary. Our social media is also Fields Cannary. Spend some time on LinkedIn as well, myself. Right now, we are full steam ahead in the construction stage. So we're shooting for a opening next year. Construction in itself is one of those challenges. I could have said earlier, what have I learned or where the challenge have been? Construction is one of those biggest ones, because again, we're not just building a 2,000 square foot store. We're building a compound of multi-use businesses. But most, they can follow us on social media, and there'll be construction updates and things of that nature. I also put out a monthly newsletter covering topics from our construction updates to the hemp versus marijuana, local attractions within Michigan and Muskegon. So people can find and register for the newsletter at our website.
Awesome. Edgar, thank you for the time, and thank you for sharing everything about what you're building. It's really exciting. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me. I know you've been a pioneer in this space as well. So I've relied on you for everything from data to information. So thank you for everything that you do.
Of course, of course. This is Travel Tuesday, brought to you by the Beard Bros Media Network at the intersection of culture and industry. I'm your host, Brian Applegarth. Thank you for being with us today. We'll see you again next month for another episode of Travel Tuesday. Thanks again, Edgar.
Thank you.